Hello and welcome back to Will's World Reviews and More. Today we'll be doing the next 4 episodes in my review of the Monday Night War series, episodes 14, 15, 16 and 17. So after this we've only got 3 more episodes left, so that'll be the next video I do on this and the last. I haven't watched those last 3 episodes yet, so we'll do this and hopefully get that done around about next week maybe, just before I do the predictions for Extreme Rules. So, these last couple of episodes, this last batch, as we move into the last batch, sorry, they've been okay. There weren't ones I was particularly looking forward to, but in actual fact, I did really enjoy them. So let's get into them. So episode 14 was The War Goes Mainstream. Wasn't particularly looking forward to this, but to be fair, it was quite interesting to learn quite a bit about that I hadn't really learnt before. As usual, the usual negative for these episodes are that they rehash quite a bit. The whole story between Ted Turner and Vince McMahon, rivalry, blah blah blah, and in the end Vince won. That kind of happens in each episode, and if you're watching every episode, it obviously does get a bit tiring. And obviously some of the interviews are repeated depending on the subject matter. But generally, that is just a negative that goes across the board. But anyway, this episode was interesting because it kind of brought up the idea of WrestleMania moments and the idea of making a big deal for WrestleMania and get these iconic moments. Also about closet wrestling fans, people who come out just for WrestleMania kind of thing, but really watch it all year long, and how wrestling still, I suppose even today, is seen as a bit of a geeky thing. People don't really want to confess and tell their friends sometimes that they watch wrestling because it can be quite embarrassing. But I think obviously during the Attitude Era that changed. It became very popular and it became cool to watch wrestling, and everyone did watch it. Whereas at the moment we're kind of edging more towards that, not the Attitude Era as such, but I think it's becoming a bit more acceptable. But at the same time, it is still viewed as a bit geeky and a bit kind of more for kids, and how can you like something that's so fake? So it's interesting, that's for sure. Also interesting that in this episode they lumped in guys like Mark Henry and Ken Shamrock. So guys you wouldn't really class as celebrities, but obviously were celebrities in different athletic sports before coming to WWE, and Vince identifying that kind of the talent they had. I also jotted down here just because the prospect of maybe having a Cena heel turn in like 10 years time or something, like Hogan. I mean, the idea of Hogan turning heel in the NWO was obviously quite a massive thing, so maybe we could see Cena do that in 10 years time, which could be interesting. Whether they want to, well, it was WCW obviously, but whether WWE want to retread that. The Dennis Rodman, this is just like a list of celebrities then that they kind of detailed. Dennis Rodman obviously in WCW, Tyson in WWE, which obviously is legendary. Leno, that was a mistake. Obviously, Arn Anderson, who obviously was working for WCW at the time, absolutely slated that decision on the episode. The idea of the Playboy, so Sable and China, Celebrity Deathmatch, WWE doing a Super Bowl advert, what else have we got here? Books, obviously Mick Foley did that. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Saturday Night Live, Kurt Angle, obviously following on that tradition from Mark Henry and Ken Shamrock. And then we just kind of detail into the fumbles and the mistakes that WCW made, like Ready to Rumble, the film, and obviously David Arquette winning the World Championship. Enough said about that, I suppose. So all in all, quite a decent episode. Like I say, not one of the best I was looking forward to, but still good. The next one, Foundations of War, was looking forward to this. So obviously, very much focused on Sting and Taker. At this point, Sting hadn't made his WWE debut, so it was a bit behind. But it kind of detailed the idea of these two stars kind of ousting the old stars. So, you had Taker beating Hogan in WWE and Sting beating Flair in WCW. The kind of relationship that Undertaker had with Kane and Sting with NWO. Both being loyal to the business. Taker more so, I suppose. and some WCW guys who were out for themselves, but not Sting. The bad booking of Sting joining the NWO in the end. So I guess the negatives for this episode were that obviously it is a bit outdated now that Sting is in WWE, because it was kind of made out like these two were just like extremely loyal to each company and that was it. And also we didn't really detail Badass Undertaker, even though I guess that was coming towards the end of the Attitude Era, but still it would have been nice. But all in all, good episode if you're a fan of those two guys. Next one, really enjoyed this one. This was a really good episode, building an army. If you want to watch one episode from this series that gives you a better general idea of the Attitude Era, I'd watch this episode, building an army, because the rest of them have been on the big guys kind of thing, which are important, but this kind of details the details, the rest of the people behind the scenes, not behind the scenes such, but the mid card, the undercard kind of thing, and just how effective they were for WWE in particular, but also WCW. So in WCW, you had guys like DDP, who didn't really have a fair crack in WWE, but is on Legends contract now. Booker T did a little bit better, but still did better in WCW. And obviously Big Show, to some extent, winning the WCW title, in his first official match, and then joining the NWO. So, but in WWE you had likes of Taker, Brett, Shawn, Razor and Diesel before they switched, obviously. Then you had the switch after they left, Nation Domination, Heart Foundation, DX, tag teams such as Edge and Christian, Hardys and the Dudleys. So it kind of gives good insight into them. It also brings up the idea of Thunder, and SmackDown. Obviously Thunder was first, and SmackDown was not really developed to compete, just because I think they realised the possibility of it and how Thunder wasn't really exploiting that, because all the stars were reluctant to go on Thunder in WCW, where SmackDown was an A-list type thing. The whole botch between Hogan and the Warrior, Halloween Havoc, which went into the shambles. I didn't know about this, about DDP and Goldberg getting cut off on the pay-per-view. But there was something good about Kidman and Hogan as well. A good episode in general. A bit of too much of a rehash of the story again, like I say, but it was nice to see good focus on guys like DDP and Booker T, who, in my opinion, are WCW legends, but also, deserve recognition in WWE. So, yeah. And the final episode, this episode felt a little bit unnecessary, but at the same time, it was a good watch, and that was on the Click, because you had episodes on NWO and you've had episodes on DX, but at the same time, it was interesting to see how the bond between these wrestlers came about. I think initially, the first thing I want to take off is that, I said it before, despite everyone seeing Triple H in his corporate persona and his new role in perhaps taking over WWE in the future, you cannot deny he's such a good wrestler, a good mic talker, and he knows what he's doing, and he took a lot for the business, took a bump, and I think, and the key for that as well, also his dedication and loyalty to WWE. He was in WCW as Terrorizing, made the switch for less money and more appearances, and then when he got shafted after the MSG curtain call incident, stuck by it and eventually did become best in the business and one of the main guys. So, like I said, whatever you think about him, you can't take that away from him. It also brings up, I guess, the fine line between sucking up and the courage to say something. A lot of people saw the Clique as just a suck-up group to Vince, and they're in his pocket kind of thing. But at the same time, you can also say, well, if they were actually brave enough to actually go to the boss and say, look, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. It's a fine line. It's people's opinions, I suppose. What else we got? Good focus on X-Pac, because he hadn't really been explicitly mentioned. They mentioned him in DX in the end of the episodes a bit. Also, interesting to see how short after Nash and Hall left, obviously Shawn got the championship, but it was a bad time for WWE in terms of ratings, and he took a lot of brunt of that. He was dealing with a lot of his own personal issues at the moment, and that reflected back on him, I suppose. At one point, it was rumoured that Triple H and Shawn would jump ship to WCW and join NWO. Imagine how that would have played out. The idea that the Clique ran the business, you had NWO in WCW, calling the shots, I suppose, and also DX in WWE. It was good. Sean, for me, I did do a video on him where I said I'd gone off him a little bit, but to be honest, that's kind of past now. I've really got back into him, and this episode again just evidences his love for the business, his love for wrestling in particular, his love for the fans. Taking the time to hold up a sign that someone had said "Kiss me, Sean," and actually kissing the girl in the audience. Just stuff like that. You can really see the dedication in Sean, and for me, I think he is, up there with Stone Cold as my favourite wrestler of all time. Goes through X-Pac return after he was fired from WCW to punish Hall and Nash, apparently, but I'm not sure the truth on that, whether they did fire him for other reasons or whether that's X-Pac just trying to lighten the whole thing. Maybe you guys can tell me that. The idea that Triple H stepped up after Shawn retired, quite a quiet retirement from Shawn as well, didn't really get the fanfare that he probably deserved. And then in correlation, obviously, Kevin Nash becoming a booker for WCW, but then realising that he couldn't really do it. But just his honesty about how he does a lot of things for money, and you can't, at least he's honest about it. He's saying the same thing in his Hall of Fame speech, about how, guys like Shawn Michaels, they were all in it about wanting to be a wrestler from a kid, whereas Diesel, Kevin Nash was more into about the money. So you can't knock him for his honesty, even if you don't agree with him. You can see the genuine chemistry, I suppose, in the NWO in terms of Hall and Nash and X-Pac and Hogan to an extent, but then you had guys like Steiner. There was a part where it was just so obvious that he'd been lumped in, and he wasn't really friends with the guys either, because they were like all hugging, and Steiner's head wasn't even in the huddle kind of thing. It was just really, really obvious that the NWO was watered down, and one of the things that didn't really work. And then it just goes into the whole reunion after WWE bought WCW, and the reunions we've had since. Obviously, we've had Hall and Nash inducted, and Shawn, obviously. So we've still got X-Pac and Triple H to go. X-Pac maybe next year, Triple H a couple of years, I think, depending when he retires. So, yeah, like I say, guys, a good episode. Like I say, if I had to pick one out of this, it would definitely be the Building an Army, but great set of episodes, and now we'll move into that last chapter where it's more about mistakes WCW made, the fall of WCW, and then life after wartime, I believe. So, like I say, I'll try and get that video done before Extreme Rules, depending on how I get on with watching the episodes. But yeah, so thanks for watching. Keep liking, subscribing, and commenting. Hope you enjoyed these videos, and I'll see you soon. Peace.